So I don't forget to record. um, oh, Kenny disappeared. Oh, Kenny's back. Okay, so we will kick this off. I will continue to let people in as they join. We'll probably wait a few minutes, Kelsey, to take a picture. That way we have the most people that are here. But I'm Natalie Newville. I do the marketing with the library. And then Kenny.
Yes. Yeah, these transitions are super awkward digitally. Like in person, we can like shift to each other. But my name is Kenny Newville, and I am the director of marketing for the Vitae Foundation here in town.
So today we're going to talk about how you can adjust your social media during a pandemic. It's kind of funny whenever we started talking about this. Sorry, I'm admitting people as we talk. As we started talking about this back in April, at that time there was a lot of unknowns, and we were just like, meh, this will probably be a good topic to discuss. It's kind of interesting right now because I feel like we're kind of not coming out of it completely, but kind of coming out of it, right? Things are starting to open back up. So it's a little bit different now than it was in April. But we'll kind of chat about all of that. So we have a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of businesses are starting to straddle that awkward fence of we're open, but we're not back to normal. But what is normal? Is there ever going to be a normal again? And obviously communicating each awkward phase of that through every means possible is going to be super important, but especially through social media. Natalie and I were just discussing yesterday, there were a few businesses that at the beginning of this hadn't changed their Google My Business listings. And so we'd drive out there to, try curbside, and we'd get there and they'd either be closed, but their Google My Business said they were open, or they weren't offering curbside, and we really didn't know that until we got there. And so communication with your potential customers is key. And now even I think that there are a few businesses around town that have closed temporarily due to COVID-19 on some of their social profiles, but they are in fact starting to open up. And I think that a lot of that misinformation, and just, it's not purposeful. It's just, we're all under a lot of stress right now where we're homeschooling, we're working from home, our businesses aren't normal. Some of us are day drinking, apparently, if you read the news. And so it's easy to forget some of those out of the way things. And so that's what we're going to try to help you guys with today, at least on the social media side.
Definitely. So I'm going to, let's take a picture and then I'll share my screen. So everyone who you can see, well, I guess even if we can't see, you can still smile, but everyone smiles.
Are you ready?
Yes, smile. Awesome. Got it. Okay.
Sorry, I was just asking what everybody was thinking, because there's nothing worse than just sitting there and like,
I know.
Did they take the picture yet? Can I stop smiling?
The worst part is like at the chamber coffees when there's 4 pages and they're taking pictures of all of them, but you don't know what page you're on. So you just smile for all 4 pages. Okay. So let me share my screen with you guys. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I'm adjusting this so I can still see you all and I can see if I need to admit anyone. I probably, Kelsey, should have made you a host before we started, because I don't know if I make you one now, if it'll stop the recording. But we'll just go with it. Okay. So like I said, we're talking about adjusting your social media strategies during a pandemic. I think the important thing to also remember with this, hopefully we never go through a pandemic again, right? Like ideally we don't have to go through this again. So even though we've talked about like crisis marketing before, you could kind of change this to how you adjust your social media strategies during a crisis. If we look back to almost a year ago when the tornado hit our communities, a lot of the stuff that we talk about would have been valid at that point in time. So the first thing we kind of wanted to touch on is what has not changed. So what do you still need to be doing the same that you were probably doing before all of this hit? And really, the first thing is with your creative content creation. Did you like that? I was like, ooh, that's good alliteration. you want to make sure the information that you're sharing is accurate. So while that is always true, it's even more true now, because there's so much misinformation about the pandemic specifically going out there that you don't want to be the one that's sharing incorrect information. And I think for the most part in our local community, we do a really good job of that. Oh, sorry, somebody else wants on. I do.
Depending on the platform you're using, obviously, we've all probably at this point in time, whether it was the election, the last presidential election, or this COVID-19 thing, we've seen that Facebook has started stamping approval on this is a known trusted source, or the dreaded this person is sharing, misinformation. You're a terrible person. You're like, I just read the headline like everyone else. I didn't know. So yeah, making sure that the information you're sharing is accurate is important. And, part of that is, at least for small businesses, especially in Jefferson City and communities like ours, share local information. Share information from sources that you're familiar with. So for example, the Cole County Health Department or state government, stuff that, is at minimal considered a baseline for accurate information.
Definitely. And then also remembering that social media is meant to be social. And we talk about this a lot, but especially right now, just remembering that the whole goal of social media is to engage with people and create a fun space. So keeping that in mind as you're creating your content, and it's not all doom and gloom and bad, scary news type stuff. And then this is something that I think is super important all of the time, but I've seen a lot on Instagram and like with bigger like influencers and bloggers where people are like attacking them. There's a lot of authors I follow, and they had books that came out during this pandemic, and everybody was like, you shouldn't be promoting your book right now. And we still need the economy to function. Businesses still need to succeed. So while it's super important to lean on your personality posts and your purposeful posts, don't be afraid to promote, like to use promotions as well. So don't feel like because of what has happened that you can't try to sell things. Just make sure you're doing it in the best way possible. And we've always talked about that, where you're not spammy. I think that like Custom Screen Printing has done a good job with that recently, where they have like their bulk like shirts that you can buy for your business. So like assuming you were like in, I don't know, construction or whatever, where you have like the t-shirts with like the logos. And so that's something that they've been selling that people could be like, why do you need to do that? Well, they need to pay their bills too. Like all these businesses need to survive. So I think that that's important.
Well, and it's important to remember also when you're selling anything, you have to believe in that which you're selling. And you have to remember that your product or service usually, if not the intention, is to enhance the lives of your clients and your customers. And during this period of time when, as I mentioned, apparently a lot of people are day drinking, people need a little enhancement in their lives. And so it's not taking advantage of a situation as much as it is, like Natalie said, making sure you can pay your bills. And by the way, your personal interests, and donations, and then what you support in the community helps those businesses. So don't be afraid to, again, find a unique way of advertising your product or service in this particular environment, and actually tying it back to the second one. Remember, social media is meant to be social. We've done social media forums before on how to handle criticism and negativity, of which there is a plentiful amount these days, as people tend to yell at businesses for opening too soon, yell at businesses for not opening soon enough. And so there's a whole strategy behind handling those trolls as well.
And then looking at other platforms and influencers for ideas. This is something, again, that we always talk about. It's always a great idea. TikTok is fantastic for creative ideas. I don't know if Kenny actually rolled his eyes, but he does every other time I talk about TikTok.
If you want the Chinese government watching you.
Oh, they already do. It's fine. But this has been, like when this first started, one of the things that I was most impressed with was the fact that there was so much creativity coming out. I mean, before this happened, who would have thought that all these late night TV shows would be filming their shows from their living room, and Ellen would be doing interviews from her couch? And, you know, all of this stuff that's happened has really given us a lot of creativity to tap into. And there's been some fun stuff that's come from it. And so I think when you're spinning, and obviously now, like, kind of coming out of it, we're kind of um going back into work, but there's still time to kind of look at that and take those ideas and kind of make them your own.
I feel like the theme of this social media forum is really going to be, Kenny, stop talking about past social media forums, but I feel like as I'm listening to this and talking about it, you know, out loud, I realize that like a lot of what we've said in the past is actually preparing us for this very moment. You know, Natalie just said that late night shows are doing their shows on, you know, YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and all these places out of their own homes. And guess what they're using to do it 9 times out of 10? They can't get a film crew in there because it's more than the number of people that are allowed to be in the same room at any given time. They're using their iPhones. And remember how many times we've said, guys, produce video content, produce you know, picture content, image content. It speaks to people, and it doesn't matter really how professional it looks. It matters that you're engaging with your consumer and your audience. And there's no better time than now to point out that when you've got people that are making, I mean, billions of dollars, and they're shooting their you know, millions viewed per hour television shows using an iPhone 11, we have that too.
For sure. And then engaging with your followers. Again, this is something we've always talked about. Don't just talk to your audience, have a conversation with them. This is super important, even more now, as people are home more, because even though things are reopening, people are still spending more time at home. You know, there's a lot of people that aren't comfortable getting out. There's still stuff that's not open yet. Please let the parks and the pools open soon so my kid can go outside. Not in my yard. But anyway, so people are looking for that outlet. They're looking to talk to people and engage with people and find different ways to do that. So keeping that in mind, where you're not just posting, but you're engaging with people. Creating content that's relevant to your audience. It's not just about what your organization is doing. So you don't want to just sit there and say, you know, hey guys, I sell XYZ, or I have this service. You want to find other, you know, behind the scenes. So like for the library, like, yes, you can check out books, but we're going to show the safety measures that we've put in place. You know, we've got all these shields up now, and we've done different stuff, and we've shown a lot of behind the scenes of the number of holds that people have had before curbside started. So thinking about things that's not just about like buy my thing, but the behind the scenes stuff with it.
Well, and I think like it's not, you know, it's also, I thought it was, okay, one local business that I really enjoyed watching a transformation of, I guess, was Bar Vino. They went from a very, in my opinion, you know, upscale, like I like hanging out at Bar Vino. It's cool. It makes me feel good. I like the environment, but then like slowly, and then we hit like peak quarantine. You walk in there and it looks like a liquor store, and like all the shelves, like, you know, all the tables are gone, but the alcohol is stacked up. And I mean, and they're, you know, they're making the best of this. Obviously, when you know, when people can't go to them and hang out in their establishment, they're still figuring out ways to transform their business. And honestly, that was probably a necessary transition for them to obviously be able to keep the amount that they need in stock and visible to their consumers, so that when they're posting on Facebook, people can see it, and it's not in a storeroom. It's in a location they're familiar with. But I think it was maybe an unintended consequence that it really endeared me to them as well, because I liked watching the transformation happen. And you know what? I can't wait to watch the transformation back to the way they were. And then, you know, and so posting content that speaks to your audience. But it's not all. It wasn't all salesy. It was a little bit of tongue in cheek about quarantine and shutting down. And obviously the product was there, the service was ever present. So they were speaking to us on a different level than buy our stuff and keep us in business. They were speaking to us on quarantine speak. But through that, clients were made and clients were solidified. Brand ambassadors, I guess, at this point, right? Since I'm pitching them.
Yeah. And then again, using your stories, which is kind of what Kenny talked about. But it's super important to find those stories that have happened recently and share those with people. So, I imagine like CNS business, like I feel like you guys are going to have so many great stories come out of this, because obviously this has affected a lot of people's jobs, and you guys are going to be the ones that help people get employment and like get them reconnected. And so I feel like as we kind of come out of this, you're going to have awesome stories to tell later on as we kind of go into it. So
yeah, as a matter of fact, we might have an awesome story that involves CNS business soon. I don't even know if Stephanie knows what I'm talking about, but
I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but that's cool. Okay. Okay. So those are all the things that haven't changed. So let's talk about what has changed. Do you have more time to expand to a new social channel? So we always talk about like, you want to pick a channel and get really good at it before you expand, because it's a lot of work when you're like learning a new platform. And maybe you did have time, maybe you still do, maybe your doors aren't open to like the general public yet, but you're in your office, and so there's less distraction. So maybe this is a good time to learn a new channel or expand to it. So as you're doing that, looking at, okay, where are you right now? Are you just on Facebook right now? Maybe Instagram is a good place to jump to next. Are you on Facebook and Instagram? Well, maybe you want to look at Pinterest or Twitter or TikTok or any of the other ones that are around.
This is your monthly reminder, really, to make sure that in your downtime, you find all of the platforms you ever potentially might jump to and secure your brand's name on that platform. Just because you're not there doesn't mean you shouldn't own that brand.
And then, again, how much time do you have to spend on social media? And keeping in mind, like for me, okay, so Facebook right now, like that's such a well-oiled machine because we do it so often. It's not hard. Instagram is the one I have to think about more, like because it's a different platform. So like, not only how much time do you have to learn it right now, but how much time will you have once this is done and you are seeing customers again, or your doors are open. So just keeping that in mind when you're expanding. Obviously the different kinds of content that are on both, and we've talked about that quite a bit. And then the equipment that you need, Kenny kind of touched on this, but like you need your cell phone, like maybe a tripod if you're doing a lot of videos.
Basically. And now that we're in quarantine, I think we all recognize, with all the Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams and Facebook Messenger, Hangout, whatever, everything, that guess what? Not everybody has access to high quality audio equipment at this point. I mean, so I think that our expectations of what quality content looks like have actually been dropped significantly. It might help us. People are going to be a little bit, because no matter what you produce for your social channels, it won't be worse than that one time that, I don't know, Edna joined your Zoom call upside down and with grandkids screaming in the background. So anyways, yeah.
True story.
Basic equipment, basic.
Okay, and then how to handle logistics. So should you change when you post? Oh, sorry. I'm not used to not having the clicker. The mouse is throwing me off. Yes. I think you need to look at your analytics. But from what I have discovered for the different like Facebook and Instagram and all the different stuff I manage, typically before the pandemic happened, I would always post around lunchtime and then after dinner or / after like the kids go to bed kind of thing, like later, like 8 p.m. But as this happened, I noticed our evening posts weren't really getting a whole lot of like interaction and engagement, but our daytime ones were skyrocketing. And that kind of has continued. And so the only explanation that I really have is that people have been on their devices so much more. So like the kids are doing all of their schooling through devices. We're doing all of our meetings through devices. We're working from home. And so by the evening, people were tired of being on their devices. Plus there was a huge push for like family game night. And, you know, there was a lot of stuff that was kind of happening. And so I actually have started doing more of our posting during the day because it's getting more reach than the stuff in the evening, which is kind of the opposite of what we did before this. So you want to look at your analytics and decide that. But if your stuff isn't getting as much reach as it used to, and you're still posting at the same time you were before all this started, it's definitely worth examining, maybe changing your posting schedule.
Well, and let's be clear about something. People are waking up later. People might be starting work at the same hour, but if you're working from home, you don't have the risk of someone coming up behind you and saying, "Hey, what are you doing on Facebook?" If you've got two screens, one of them might always be on social media now. If you're in an office environment, chances are you're either separated or nobody's coming into your office because of the COVID. So you still have social media up on your screen. And then when you're done with the workday, you're just so sick of looking at it that you were able to do other things and you want to get outside. Or, you know, we're getting into the summer. It's starting to be nicer outside, although it's cold and rainy almost every day this week. And so, yeah, change your post times. But first of all, take a look at your analytics and let that navigate you to when you post. You might find that, you know, it might be totally opposite from Natalie's schedule. Natalie, you're throwing me off with the
Sorry,
awkward
groundhog just
glances.
ran across our backyard.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure no one's breaking in to kill us while we're on the Zoom call. That'd be traumatic for everyone involved.
Okay. So is your information still correct? The times that you were open, and Kenny kind of touched on this earlier, but that was one of the things. Like, it's funny, you always think about, like, I think incorrect information being more like small business type stuff. You don't think about big corporations like having that stuff wrong. But like, I was Googling when Aldi was open and they still said they closed at 5. And I was like, I feel like that's wrong. And I drove over there and they had gone back to their normal hours. And, you know, of course, being the person I am, I told the cashier, I was like, hey, just FYI, like, your Google My Business hours aren't correct. And she was like, I don't even know what that means. And I was like,
I don't even know you, lady. Why are you bugging me?
I was like, you might just tell your manager or someone, like, P.S., your hours are wrong online. But not only that, but the services you offer. So like Carrie's Hallmark was doing FaceTime shopping for a long time, and I think they still are. So that's something that they've added. Like the library, we're doing curbside pickup. That's a new service. So is that out there on your social media? Do people know about that? Are there services that you can't offer right now? So, you know, there's a lot of like restaurants that can't do buffets right now. So have they updated that? So just looking at all of that with fresh eyes. And it's weird right now, especially Kenny and I were talking about this yesterday. Like the library, we're open right now, but only for curbside pickup. Next week we'll be open, like open where people can come in. So it's been weird trying to like update stuff because it's just a weird time.
Well, the question is on, you know, and again, I know it's a social media forum, but we generally branch out to other digital means. And so I'm going to mention Google My Business. What do you do if you're open, but not, you know, like, cause there's not a lot of nuance on Facebook. You can put in your profile image or you know, in a post that you pin or something like that, you could put, hey, we're only open for curbside. We're not doing this. We are doing this. But in some of those other channels, you got to make a decision. Like, do we say that we're open and have to worry about people assuming that we're fully open and dealing with that? Or do we say that we're closed and obviously deal with the ramifications of saying that we're closed, but then there are people that are going to come anyways? Because let's be honest, I mean, there's people that show up to your business even with the lights off, the open sign off, you say on social, I'm going to be closed. People still show up. And so, you know, you just have to make a call in that regard. But on social media platforms, there's a lot of opportunity for explanation. So.
Sure. And then do you have content that you can use? That was one of the things I wish, well, so the library found out we decided, our board voted on a Monday that we were closing. So we were open on Tuesday for the general public to come get the rest of their stuff. And then staff came on Wednesday to do the rest of the like shutting things down. So on that Wednesday, I spent the entire day recording virtual story times for us to use. We had no idea at that point in time how long we were going to be closed, but we knew we needed to shift to virtual programs. So I ended up recording, we ended up having about a month and a half's worth of story times that we could use. And then from that point in time, our staff had to do it from home. So I was glad that we did that ahead of time. The thing I wish we would have done is I wish we would have potentially recorded some other programs if we could have fit it in that day, but also sent children's books home with the staff that were going to have to do story times at their house later, because a lot of our children's staff don't have small children at home anymore, so they don't have those books. We actually, at one point, I gathered a whole bunch of Catherine's and left them on my porch, and people came and picked them up so they could use her books for our virtual story times. But just thinking about that, and sometimes, you know, there are things like when the tornado hit, we didn't know that was happening ahead of time, so we wouldn't have known to like stockpile that stuff. But thinking about that, you know, even as we go like into winter and like potential for snow days and that kind of stuff, like really making sure you're gathering content ahead of time so that you have material, you know, on your phone that you can post from anywhere.
Evergreen content is a good way to put it. I mean, you don't want to withhold something that's going to eventually be stale. You know, if it's specific, if you know, with the tornado again, if it's specific to the tornado, you should probably post it if it's effective. But you know, if you had a children's story time, if you're Natalie, you had a children's story time for that day, you might wait a couple days. And while parents are dealing with parent things, adult things, then maybe the kids would benefit from that story time at a later time than it was intended to be posted. And, you know, obviously flexibility is key here too. Because like Natalie said, you know, the children's readers didn't have those books. So we just cobbled together our own, and then they're recording those through their cell phones and sending them to Natalie, or maybe even in some instances directly posting them depending on the situation and the person. I'm using their businesses. How they want to run their businesses is their responsibility. Sorry, the Brady Bunch down here.
Right.
Anyways, the point is, it's about being flexible. And so, you know, there's other ways to acquire content. Even if you can't be around each other and you're in lockdown, there's still ways to acquire content.
For sure. Okay, so should you adjust how you do business? And I think we kind of talked about this before. So what are you doing now that's different from before? Kenny talked about this with Barvino. One of the cool things that they did was they still did their wine tasting, but it was virtually. So like you came by, you bought like 3 bottles of wine, brought it home. With that, you got the link to a Zoom, and then they had like this fancy wine taster person. I don't know. There's a real word for that.
A sommelier?
Yes, there you go. So people could do wine tastings at home. So like that was a way that they were able to adjust their business. And they advertised it on social media, and I cannot believe that they didn't get people that maybe like Kenny and I, like, it's hard to find a babysitter. I don't know that we will go to wine tastings regularly, but that's something that we could do even with Catherine being home.
And obviously when people were offering delivery and free delivery, Natalie and I were living our best life, because when we lived in South Korea, people did that normally anyways. I mean, everyone from McDonald's to any local little hole in the wall Korean place delivered for free on real plates. They come back and pick them up when you put them outside your door. But anyways, so when this started, like, we were like, who's delivering? Because we didn't want to go anywhere, and we didn't want to go into a place and get there and find out they're closed. And so, you know, obviously the places that got our business were the places that we knew on social said, hey, we're open, we're delivering for free, just give us a call, we'll make it work. So that was good. Another small business that's changed some of the things that they're doing is Revel. Johnny Graham has decided to put together some menus, and you can actually either pick up the ingredients yourself, he'll give you the list, or I think in some instances he'll acquire some of the ingredients, definitely the wine pairings, and then you can pay a little bit.
All of it right now.
Huh?
He's doing all of it right now. Like,
so it's kind of like
like you just say, like, I want this, and you pull up and they load it in your car.
And then you can cook it while he's cooking. And it's a learn to cook class through Zoom. So it's the best of both worlds, except for you have to pick it up afterwards. You have to clean up. If you just went somewhere and learned how to cook, then you can splatter things and not to
Okay, so then, you know, what problem are you trying to address? Kenny kind of talked about that with delivery. this is when I think Gracie Barra has done a good job, and a lot of the other gyms have as well. Like
Baja.
people couldn't. Oh, okay, Baja. That's
I know it's weird, but it's true.
okay. Fair enough.
He critiqued me about it one day, and I was like, "Cool, thanks, bro."
Well, he's not here. He didn't come today, so when he watches the replay, he can see that I pronounced his business name wrong. A lot of the gyms did a great job with reaching their people, and people wanted to work out from home, and so they did videos. And I know that it was good. A lot of these gyms charge monthly memberships, and so they really wanted to continue to provide value to their members because that obviously pays their employees' salaries. And so this is one way that they were able to do it that I thought was really good. Okay, should you adjust your content? The short answer is yes, always when you do this. So some pre-planned content isn't relatable or relevant right now. I think a great example of this, so the library, we do radio ads. And so when this started, we had just started our campaign for our language learning databases. And like it kicked off, it was like, are you getting ready to travel for spring break? And like, I heard it and I like called the radio and I was like, abort, abort, abort. I was like, well, no one's traveling. Take that ad off. We have to change it. And so looking at if you have any pre-planned content or things that you normally put out, like the chamber barbecue, like that's something that's always happening right now. The leadership classes, Battle of the Brews, like any of that content that was pre-planned, like obviously needs to be taken down now because those things aren't happening until later. So just looking at your pre-planned content and adjusting things as you need to.
Yeah, this is the perfect time. Actually, a while back was the perfect time to make sure that any scheduled content and any events you plan on hosting that might be changed by this situation we find ourselves in are figured out. And actually, with like the language learning thing, that's a pretty easy fix. Stuck inside and ready to travel when this is over, then learn French. So most of the time it's pretty easy. You can actually keep that content, but just change up a few things in the direction you're going.
Okay, we already talked about posting time. Embracing the situation. So yes, like COVID-19 is happening. We all know that. But everything you post on social media doesn't have to relate back to that. And I think that's important, especially at this point. Like as of today, I think we're 9 weeks since like school's let out. Makes me tired. By the time the kids go back to like summer camp, summer school, whatever, a lot of those camps are opening June 1. We will have been out as long as summer break usually is. So our kids are having 2 summer breaks this year. But everything doesn't have to be related to COVID-19. Like you can post other things and people are getting tired of it. Like they're tired of hearing about it all the time and talking about it all the time. There's some normalcy that people kind of want back in their lives. So just keeping that in mind as you're creating your content.
Nope. I got nothing.
Nope. Okay. All right.
You said it all.
And then right now is such a great time. We talk about this often. I told Kenny, I said, I'm putting our brand ambassador stuff in there because I think it's so important for businesses to really embrace. So again, if you've been to those before, what is a brand ambassador? It's someone that represents your organization in a positive light. Who can that be? And obviously like your staff, your board members, if you're a nonprofit, like your supporters, the people who donate to you. But the ones that I think during this pandemic and any other time that you really want to start to tap into are the different community members and like our local celebrities. The last time I talked about brand ambassadors, it was on a call and Carrie, our mayor, was on. And it was funny. I was like, it's funny. I always talk about Carrie being like one of our local celebrities. It's weird when you're on the call. And I'm like, hey, did you know you're a celebrity? But tapping into those people to really help, raise your profile, help people see what you're doing, help people share your stuff. Sometimes a brand ambassador is someone who's sharing your product. So, we go back to Carrie's, and when this started, I really needed some magnet tiles for Catherine because she needed something to do. And Carrie's, like, I was able to call, I paid over the phone, they brought it out to my car. So I did a post about it, and lots of people were like, oh, I didn't know they had that. Oh, that's great. Like, I need some of those. So that was me being like an unofficial brand ambassador, talking about the great service that I had and that it was awesome that they had that product.
Well, especially during instances like this where there is so much communication about, well, are they open, or man, I am tired of eating at the same place, or I'm tired of cooking all the time. I want to go out. And, I usually try to mention one of my favorite barbecue places in town, Sweet Smoke. And I mean, they stayed open and strong throughout this whole thing, at least from an appearance perspective. I don't know what their books look like, but I mean, like, they opened up that West Side business, that West Side location. And I mean, we've picked up barbecue from them several times. And yeah. So, I mean, it's, and it helps, by the way, if there's places that you frequented before this quarantine, it's helpful to be able to, to enjoy that during quarantine and inject a little bit of normalcy. So when people are talking on a Zoom call, it's like, at the end you're wrapping up, or even in the middle, because you're just bored of meeting on Zoom. And you're like, man, I want to get lunch, but I don't remember who's doing what and whatever. And, I sent people several times to Sweet Smoke. We were sent to Texas Roadhouse. We didn't want to, risk the rush that was basically prior to quarantine almost every day there. But, there was some people that were like, hey, do you know they have this carry out deal? And we were like, what? And so we just on a whim decided to do that. And so Prison Brews, same thing. We talked with people like, hey, we haven't had Prison Brews in a while. So we everybody went to Prison Brews and picked up their stuff and then went home with Prison Brews. So that brand ambassador is going to be somebody who's important during normal business, but it's going to be critical during abnormal business.
Well, and even like Visit Jefferson City has a guide that like the different restaurants that were open and that kind of thing. I can't tell you how many times I shared that link because people would ask, do you know if so-and-so's open? And I'd be like, hang on. And I'm like, here, this is everyone. So even if you're not someone that like quote unquote sells something, people who know about your services, and it was an easy way, like that link was right on the front of their website. I was able to grab it quickly every time I needed it. So making that stuff easy for those people to find is super critical as well. And then how do you create brand ambassadors? So again, a lot of times people don't know that it's important. I'm making it my mission so that everyone in the community does know it's important, because I think that it can really make or break our local businesses and our nonprofits. But just encouraging them, asking them to be active. I'll tell you, custom screens printing, the I Heart Social Distancing. I bought the sweatshirt and the t-shirt. I've literally worn them 2 or 3 times a week this entire time. I love them. And there are so many people, like I posted pictures on Facebook and on Instagram, and people from not in this community, because they were shipping, would go and buy those shirts from their website and have it mailed to them. So tapping into those people, and you can see here, Jeff, like, who owns it, he was like, thank you so much. So thanking the people when they do get on and share your product or your service is super vital as well.
Yeah, I have to say, and this is a little, I suppose, maybe, I don't know. I feel a little off saying it, but I'm just going to say it because it's a real thing that everyone else is thinking at some point in time or another. When you're like, yeah, I'm so hyped about brand. And so you post on social media and you tag the brand, and then nothing happens. And you're like, you could have liked my post, man. I went out there for you. I'm advertising for you, So always take a look at your notifications, and at minimum just react. And at most, make sure you go out and thank those people. And certainly in person if you bump into them. If not through social media. So make people feel appreciated for enjoying your product or service, and they will become a brand ambassador very quickly.
I think too, it's super fun. Like we do this with the library with our book box. When people post about the book box, like I'll screen grab that and then share it on our page. And people like that. Like they're like, ooh, like, look at me on this. Like I'm famous. I'm on the library's Facebook page. So tapping into that when people do represent you in a way like that, grabbing that and using that on your own social is super important. And I know like the chamber is good about that. Kelsey does a good job at the chamber barbecue, like getting pictures of the members and sharing all of that stuff on their Facebook page.
When we could barbecue.
I know. It's been popping up in my memories, Kelsey, and I'm like, I missed the chamber barbecue. It's so fun. And we already kind of talked about having things where it's easy for people to find them. Making your content fun to share. That's always important. What's going on? What's happening? Okay, there we go. And then work on building a relationship. So don't just post and leave it alone. Make sure you're responding and engaging with people. It makes them want to interact with it.
And even negative comments, it's important to respond, but it's important to remember when to cut bait and just stop. You'll know when it's time. Generally speaking, if you find yourself in an argument with someone on Facebook or social media, you need to backpedal quickly, unless you've got a real good reason not to. But otherwise, definitely respond, react, engage. Yeah. Okay. Looks like Natalie, how do you make it fun to share? Colton asked on the Zoom chat. And maybe that's actually a good question for the audience since we've been speaking so much. We normally have a little bit more of a conversation in person, but I mean, do you have any advice for making things fun to share?
I think it's always I think humor is always a great way to do it. Even some puns, and I'm terrible at puns, but I will so I run the Salute to America's Facebook page, and so we were talking about the beer garden that was open. And so I just Google beer puns, and it was don't worry, be hoppy. And I was like, okay, yeah, we'll do that.
Everybody put that on a t-shirt, so just move on.
So I think trying to find humor, knowing that it doesn't always have to be your original content. So you can share stuff from share, not steal, from other places. Sometimes it's stuff again, as we're reopening, the Cole County Health Department has a lot of guidelines for restaurants or businesses or churches or whatever. That's relevant content that other people will share because it affects all of us. So my go-to is always humor. I find humor to be the number one thing that's always shared.
Yeah, it is. And another thing you could do, is take a normal tactic to build comments and just flip it to share. For example, the title of a book, change one word and share this post. And then, it'll go to those, I don't know, Starship Troopers into, Starship Bloopers, and then someone else will, do another word, and it'll kind of spiral. Or I don't know if you guys have seen the posts where it's almost like a baseball, and that the middle of the cork is, hey everybody, share this post and say, I didn't expect to see that, or act surprised. And then after 40 people share it, you've just got a string of people oh my gosh, I never saw this coming. And then you click, you're like, what? And you click it, and it's another person that says, I can't believe this happened. And then you're like, what? And then you click it, and you get all the way down, and and so that's kind of a fun little game to play as well. So again, humor, I think shares best, but also information shares well. But you have to go back to what we were saying earlier, make sure it's good and accurate information. So I don't know if anybody has any suggestions for something they've seen share well, or.
Okay.
We did a little bit of an insider thing. This Mark at Jeff Tran, and we had an engine go out on a bus, and we had a surprising amount of interest in the fact that a bus engine completely out of the bus, setting up on blocks was something that piqued a lot of people's interest, and had some questions about it. What kind was it? A Cummins, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes the insider stuff is something that kind of can be compelling content for some people. It makes it kind of fun. It's something that's unusual, learn something in the process. So it's been something that worked a little bit for us.
For sure. I love behind the scenes content. And I think too, Colton, I could see you guys doing something that's what thing, with your members, it's a lot of nature, hunting. I go back to the people on the webinar we did earlier who talked about it's bird season, it's migrations. What's one thing right now with everyone home that you think they should know. And, someone says, oh, X amount of birds are coming through Missouri right now. They can see them from their backyard. And then that kind of gives you content to share as well. But it creates a lot of comments because all of these people who are experts in all these different things want to share with you what they think other people should know.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, and Kelsey in the comments said people love to talk about themselves, ask them what option they would choose for a piece of advice or a favorite memory. That's a great idea. Natalie talked about how they did the library punch recipe one time and shared that out, and that was shared because it was a very popular thing. But then there's other times you could say, okay, now we shared ours, now you share your favorite recipe, and it turns a post into a recipe book. And then also, really quick, one more question from Stephanie, and is it necessary to get a release from people, guests used in your posts? And also, this is super important. The Chamber Barbecue has been officially rescheduled to September 3rd, so we still are planning on barbecuing.
Yay!
And God willing, we can, because that would be amazing. So it is important to have an understanding of what you can and can't share. Now, here's the thing. If somebody posts to your page, I'm going to pick the low-hanging fruit first. If someone posts to your page, comments on a post, whatever, first of all, that's public. But a lot of times, like when I post, when I'm barbecuing and I'll have like a beer or whiskey in the picture and I'll post it, and I usually inevitably get a request from that brand to be able to share that. And so they do ask me that way if they want to take the image and the content and turn it into something that they can use that's not like immediately just shared from my profile. They have that ability. Logitech has used some of my stuff before, and they turn it into their own post, but it's with my words and my picture. So that's a good rule of thumb. In terms of on-site, like for example, the library, that's a public place. So technically, when you're in public, you can expect at any given time for somebody to take your picture, even if you're in the background of like a news story, or if, the library is filming content and someone walks behind them. Obviously, if you want to like stick a camera in their face and actually ask them a question and ask them to respond, it's a good idea to get a consent. But usually verbal is fine.
Yeah, for content, like if I'm sharing content that someone's posted, if they've posted a review on our page, or they've posted a picture and a thing to our page, sometimes I'll message them, sometimes I don't, because if they're posting a review that they want it to be seen, it's just me sharing it. But if it's something like that I'm like personal Facebook friends with them and they didn't tag the library, I just see that they're at the library, then I'll be like, hey, can I use this? So you kind of have to know your audience a little bit. Okay, so let's see. This is our last slide. So we want to touch on these really quick because these are some great opportunities to reach new customers that people are doing right now that don't cost you anything. So the first one is visit Jefferson City. Oh, I thought it was going to let me, maybe.
Even when we're on our home network, we have internet connectivity problems with PowerPoint.
Good. Can you guys
this might
see
be
that?
saying something.
Perfect. Okay, so Visit Jefferson City is doing this great thing right now where if you have special offers or discounts or promotions, you can sign up with them. It doesn't cost anything. They'll be advertising it out to visitors, but obviously there's a lot of local people that also check this out. So this is a great way to reach some new people that maybe you don't know about or you haven't reached. So that I think is on their website. If not, I'll post this link in the social media forum as well. Now I did that and now I don't know how to get back to my PowerPoint.
Can you just kill your browser?
There we go. Good job. And then the Chamber Video Challenge, which I'm going to show you the video because I love it. And I think Kelsey did a great job. Oh.
Hey, Chamber members, Susan and I are here to kick off our JC Mill.
Okay, can you see that? Can you see the pit video? Yes, okay, thanks.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, we're asking our members to submit fun video gift.
Hey, Natalie, the audio isn't playing through our speakers. I mean, we can hear it through yours, but it might be a good idea to maybe post the link in the chat, and
did.
then
I
people.
posted the link in the video yesterday. Why is the video not working?
It's because we have 2 people streaming audio and video, high definition. Come on.
Okay.
Money can only buy so
Myself.
much, router.
Goodness gracious. Okay, so anyway, that video we posted in our Facebook group. So if you're not in the JCMO social Facebook group, it's there. But it's a fun video challenge that they're doing right now. It's like a 30-second infomercial about your business and what you're doing. Please be cheesy. Like when they say infomercial, I'm like, yes, make it cheesy, make it quirky. The library's going to do some fun stuff with it. So if you want to brainstorm ideas, we did post it, again, like I said, in that group, and we've kind of started brainstorming ideas for different businesses who've commented. So jump on there, put your business, and we can all kind of be creative together. Kelsey, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about that, or if that's...
No, but I would encourage, again, I think you hit the nail on the head saying that comedy is what kind of gets shared. That's the content that people want. So we're encouraging you to be a little goofy and be a little silly. And we need some positivity right now in people's lives. So it wouldn't hurt anyway. So just leave that with you. And if you need help brainstorming, just shoot me a message and I'm happy to put my head together with you and try and come up with something.
Put your head together 6 feet apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just checking.
Via Zoom.
I will report you.
Awesome. So we can open it up to questions if you guys have any. I know we've kind of hit on some throughout, but I can't see the chat. So
I can. I've been monitoring it. By the way, apparently, this is some sage advice that I'm just going to share with everybody since we've been doing 2 months of Zoom calls and didn't know this apparently, but there is a setting when you share your screen that allows the audio to be shared as well. So Colton, thanks, bud. I don't know how we've survived this long on Zoom without knowing that, but apparently that's a thing. Not that it mattered because we couldn't buffer the video, but
yeah,
take a look at that video. Like it.
good.
Share it.
Funny.
Share that
It's really-
content.
It's really nice to see somebody else struggling with bandwidth issues, by the way, guys. So just so you know, that really does help. Makes me feel better.
We talked about at the beginning of this, when this whole like Kenny went out and bought like the fastest, biggest router we could find. Like we were like, we are not going to have these issues.
Doesn't matter. That mid-Missouri bandwidth, man. I tell you what.
You're only as big as the pipeline that connects to you.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I tell you. All right. Well, obviously, you guys know how to find us. You guys can take a look at the social media forum group on Facebook. Most of you are connected with us in some capacity or another on social media. Or, of course, you can hit us up at newvilleconsulting@gmail.com. You can also go to the chamber, and they can connect you. Kelsey knows how to find us. Although sometimes I feel like I maybe respond a little too late to her email. So maybe she does question how to find us sometimes. But anyways, yeah, so thanks for coming this morning, and have a fantastic rest of the week. Hopefully we can maybe get a little bit of summer,
Yep.
Maybe.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Kelsey, I'll email you the recording and the picture.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.